We get a huge update on the Nick Robertson trade situation to the point that Brad Treliving speaks out on the matter. And we also get a quote from Brad Treliving saying that he still has more players in the hopper and he wants to sign depth pieces. We're going to get into all this later on this episode. Before we start, I just want to give a shout out to the 22.6% of you guys that are subscribed, to the 77.4% of you that aren't. Make sure to go down and hit the subscribe button. We're trying to reach 4,000. We're so close, and I know you guys can get us there, and we'll keep you up to date with everything around the NHL. But with that, let's hop straight into the first topic today, which is Nick Robertson trade update. Now, I'm sure if you've been looking at social media at all, you've seen the original tweet from Chris Johnson just a few days ago saying sources say that RFA Nick Robertson has no plans to re-sign with the Toronto Maple Leafs this summer and has informed the team he will like to be traded. Now, obviously, this was a huge situation as Nick Robertson was one of those players that has been trying to fight to get into his lineup, and it seems like he can never find his way. We do get a quote from Brad Treliving himself about the Nick Robertson situation. He said Nick Robertson reports of him asking to trade it, and he says, "I've known there was some frustration with Nick on his behalf. There is a great opportunity for Nick here." He went on to say how he wants Nick to stay there, how Craig Berube liked Nick Robertson as well. And it seems like both sides are stuck in a situation now of one player wanting to be traded and the general manager wanting to keep this player. Casey, what's your thoughts on Nick Robertson asking for a trade and it seeming like Brad Treliving is unwilling to move him?
Yeah, I think there's a bit of bad blood between Nick Robertson and maybe Sheldon Keefe. I think Sheldon Keefe never really gave him that opportunity. I don't think I'm, out there by saying that. I think Nick Robertson is a phenomenal player. I mean, we've had, Austin Matthews, who's the best goal scorer in the league, say he has the best shot on the team. So when you have a player like that saying that about you, I mean, that means that he's just that good of a player. He's that good of a goal scorer. He has that in him, but I just don't think he's got the right opportunity in Toronto, and that's why it rubs him the wrong way a little bit. I think it's just because he's being scratched all the time and not getting into the lineup. Yes, that is frustrating as a player. When if you go to another team, say like a Chicago or something, you would immediately be starting there and have your opportunities. So by Brad saying that there's lots of opportunity here for Nick, I think that means that he's going to get into this lineup this season.
Yeah, because the biggest thing is Sheldon Keefe had a bit of a cold heart when it came to the younger players. Timothy Liljegren comes to mind. Nick Robertson is definitely one of them. We've seen a lot of these players make one mistake, get taken out of the lineup for a few games when star players weren't held accountable. This is not going to fly under Craig Berube's system, and that's where I think we can have a guy like Nick Robertson really flourish. Obviously, last season with the Toronto Maple Leafs, Nick Robertson played 56 games, 14 goals, 13 assists for 27 points. He got into 6 playoff games, and yes, Nick Robertson has went through a lot of injuries throughout his career. You can see just the total amount of games he's played is not that high. You can see 6 games, 21, 28, 10, 15, 56 being the most he's played in a season. But Nick Robertson has a great shot, and that's why I think he would fill in perfectly on one of these wings. A line where you can get him in, like I said, the third line with Max Domi, Calle Yarncroke. Maybe you even see Nick Robertson make the second line and let Bobby McMahon just kind of cook on the third line. There's a lot of forwards here fighting for spots. There's Easton Cowan still, Fraser Minton. You have a lot of guys. And where would you kind of want to see Nick Robertson make this lineup if they do just kind of say, hey, we don't want to trade you and we want to re-sign you maybe as a sit down with everyone in management and really talks this through?
Yeah, first I gotta say, I mean, it feels like Nick Robinson's been here forever. The kid's only 22 years old. He still has so much time left, in his career, and I think that trading him away now would be a huge mistake. I think, to answer your question, playing him with Mitch Marner, who is an extremely great playmaker, who could set him up for one-timers, set him up for goals, it could definitely help him be successful in the NHL because we already know he has that wonderful shot, the best on the team. Like I said, Austin Matthews has said. So if you put him with a guy who can actually pass him the puck and set him up for scoring chances, I think he'll find a lot of success here in Toronto.
And the biggest thing is, if a guy like Robertson really does want to be traded, it kind of ties management's hands where you still need to fill out this third line left wing spot. You're getting rid of a guy that might be pushing into the prime and having a breakout at any point soon. So it's going to be hard to move on from a guy like this. You're not going to get full value. You have his RFA rights. You don't have him signed. Teams know he wants to leave. So it's going to get tricky for the Leafs and management to figure this out. Hopefully Craig Berube can sit down. Maybe some of the Leafs guys can call him, hold him hostage, kind of like they did in the Clippers with Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan. But they'll have to figure something out. And what's your guys' thoughts on Nick Robertson? Do you want him to stay? Would you be fine with moving him out to get a new, fresh look on this team? And talking about fresh looks, we also have a second topic here today, which is the Leafs are adding more depth. Now, we do get a quote from Brad Treliving during his presser during free agency. He said that he has a couple more depth signings in the hopper, could be finalized within hours. So this is a big thing where Treliving and company have already went out and made multiple signings. OEL acquiring Tanev, picking up Stolarz as a backup goalie. We're seeing a lot of works happen here, and with him having more players in the hopper, Casey, do you think maybe this is them looking at finding that third line left wing, or do you think they're just purely looking for just extra scratches to play throughout the season?
Yeah, they could definitely be looking at that position, but now hearing that about Nick Robertson, maybe they're saving that for him. But I think what Brad and the Leafs are looking for here is just, the best deal they can get for the best player they can get. And I think if they can add a couple of more depth pieces, maybe one depth forward, I think is a great option. Maybe two, guys who you can rotate in and out. And if you can get them in at good deals, it could definitely, be beneficial for Toronto. And one left winger that's kind of left right now who kind of has my eye is Thomas Tatar. I mean, Habs legend, first of all, but I think Thomas Tatar, you could get this guy in at fairly cheap. I believe he's like 33 years old right now. So, he's coming off a season where he had 24 points. Thomas Tatar is known for his goal scoring. Yes, he had a little bit of a down year, but this is a veteran. This is a guy who's going to come into your bottom six and just electrify it. Thomas Tatar was one of my favorite Montreal Canadiens when he was on the team. I think if they could get him in at a reasonably good deal here, he could be a fan favorite here in Toronto.
Yeah, that's the big thing. It seems like they want to add more scoring to this bottom six. I mean, they struggle with scoring throughout the postseason and at the end of the season. So two guys that really stand out to me, which would be the top two players, would be Jeff Skinner from Ontario and Adam Henrique. I think Adam Henrique might be a little more expensive. We've seen him come off an incredible season with the Ducks, going to the Oilers, making it to the finals. But Adam Henrique could play a bit of center for you, a bit of wing. He could also move up and down the lineup. I wouldn't be mad in a pinch if we had to put Adam Henrique as a center on the second line for a game or two to take over for an injury. But Jeff Skinner is the one that really draws in my interest. This is a guy that you can see scored 24 goals, 22 assists, 46 points on the Buffalo Sabres, just playing just a shy under 16 minutes. This is a guy that's never been in the playoffs. He wanted to go to Buffalo when he originally went there because it was close to his home in Toronto. I think bringing in a guy that could score 30 goals for you, a guy that has scored 30 goals in the NHL at the age of 32 as a depth piece, he got bought out. He's making the money regardless. Getting in a guy like this to help with the scoring on that third line with a guy like Max Domi, who's an incredible playmaker, could be very beneficial. And just looking at this list, Casey, is there anyone else you wanted to just kind of point out as a possible option?
Yeah, I really like the Jeff Skinner pick you just had. I think he's, an exceptional player. Like you said, he's from Ontario. His hometown team could come back for maybe a little bit cheaper than what he would go elsewhere. I think that's probably the top option if they can get him in at a reasonably good deal here. But there is a number of names here on this list that we could definitely see, Toronto maybe go after. One that I'm kind of looking at here is Max Pacioretty. I mean, he is proven to be a solid bottom six player in his career. He was a top player at one point in his career. Now on the back nine of his career, coming towards the 18th hole, it's looking like maybe he's trying to get on a playoff team. But I think it would be weird to see Max Pacioretty on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Just gotta put that out there.
Yeah, it was probably weird watching Thomas Mechanic skate around in a Leafs jersey as well. But there's a lot of names, and I know Brad Treliving is cooking a lot. So what's your guys' thoughts on all this? What's your thoughts on Nick Nick Robertson requesting a trade, and Treliving just coming out and saying, hey, we want you here. We want you on this team. And it seems like he's almost vetoing that. It's going to come down to a matter of time before some side has to give on that. And what's your thoughts on depth pieces? Who would you want them to pick up? Is there someone we never listed? Maybe a center, a winger, another goalie, another defenseman? Who knows? Let us know down in the comments. But speaking on comments, let's get into everyone's favorite topic, which is comments of the day. And the comment today comes from, sorry about that, that was from another video. Aaron McGinn says they didn't sign Perry though, so Edmonton's losing in the finals again or in the first round. LOL, happy for the Preds. And that was on a video that we did on the Nashville Predators. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. And if you wanted to leave a comment on anything we talked about, you could be like Aaron today and be featured on Comment of the Day on the next episode, which might come immediately after this. Who knows? There's so much news going around. While you're down there, share this with your friends, leave a like, subscribe. We're trying to reach 4,000. But I've been your host, Mark Pye, with my co-host, KC. Take care.